So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this month's Roundup. Now, obviously, it is February 1st at the time of recording this, and I'm going to be doing January 2021 monthly Roundup. Now, I had a ton of people ask me, where was the December monthly Roundup? And that's a great question, because actually there was a lot happened in December, and there's actually a lot that I could have gone over. But around the time that I was meant to record the December monthly Roundup, usually I record these on the first usually the 1st to the 5th of, the next month, about the prior month. I was, obviously New Year's, that was my birthday, and I was getting drunk and enjoying a 12-day, I was just enjoying 12 days off with me and a couple buddies and, a bunch of other friends. You'll also notice, if you're watching this on video and not podcast version, that it's I say an unfamiliar background, but also probably familiar if you guys have been around for a long time. This is actually the third villa that I stayed in last year when I was here, when I ended up staying in Cape Town for 6 months. So funnily enough, of all the villas I've stayed in Cape Town, which are around like 6 now, this is actually, I think in terms of like square footage, the smallest. But I don't know why. I'm just like in love with this place. Everything's just done so nice. Like I think for me, it's just if I was to buy a house, I would sort of design it the exact same way that, it's designed in here. Like it's just done. It's very chic, modern, but not too modern. I hate super modern places. Like chic, but as I said, with modern touches, but just not like too in your face. So yeah, I know, I love this place. Anyways, there's a couple things that I want to talk about in today's video. Well, first things first, I know that you guys are all expecting me to say, by the way, I only have 45 minutes because, in 45 minutes, I've got a sales call. Well, joke's on you, because I've actually got 48 minutes and I don't have a sales call after. I have a strategy session with a new client. So I'm pretty sure I can squeeze this one into 58 minutes and there won't be any issues. So with no further ado, a couple of things I want to talk about. As I said, first things first is my investment portfolio, and specifically one of the asset classes in there, which now totals well over 7 figures in my personal name. I don't really talk about my investments. In general, I haven't really talked about my investments, and especially this one specifically. This is all in my personal name. My entire investment portfolio is in my personal name as it currently stands. There's also logic and reasoning behind that, which I'll get into in just a little bit. Because as a general rule, when you're a business owner, taking money out the business and then paying the personal tax on it, and it's not a wise idea. So we'll get on to that. That's one topic of discussion. But before that, I actually want to talk about kind of the proverbial seasons, work seasons, and this is where so many people go wrong. Is they don't, their work output, they haven't calibrated yet with their work seasons. And I feel this is something I've done very, very well over the last few years, and just kind of understand my work seasons and understand when it's time to throttle and do full 12-hour work days, which, by the way, you can't do any more than that. Like, I don't care who you are, 12 hours of real actual work a day. I've never met anyone who can muster more than that. Cause once you get to like 12-hour work days, your brain's just fried after it. Like, yeah, maybe maybe you can reply to emails and this and that, but that's not real work to me. So that's that. And then the last one, as always, we'll be talking about a new watch. So a new watch, actually, we'll get into it, but there's a lot of watches. But yeah, we'll get into it. Anyways, first thing I want to start off with is this concept of the seasons, because I've had a lot of 7 and multi-7 figure entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, reach out to me actually, and a lot of them. It's funny, I had a lot in 2020 reach out to me and asking me for advice because they were almost about to like call it quits. Like they were, going to call it quits on their business, just kind of live off of what they'd earned and this and that. And they were just like, a lot of people messaged me in 2020 just super jaded, wanting my advice. And I think it's because they didn't sync up to this concept that I'm about to tell you. Now, I don't really, I don't really have a term for this. But really what it is just, as I said, being able to sync to your work seasons. And not only that, it's about finding out what your work seasons are. So, I'll tell you guys openly and transparently, from January until June, I literally don't care about anything except for work. Like, I'm so dialed in that first half of the year. And maybe it's because I'm so dialed in that first half of the year that it gets to a point where, after 5-6 months of 12-hour work days, 6 days a week, maybe at that point I just get a little jaded and I get like a little burnt out. But I've just noticed that when it comes to summertime, when it comes to, June, July, August, it totally inverts. I go from only caring about work to work being on the back burner. Now, that's not to say that, I don't do any work and I coast and this and that and, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, in those 3 months, it's about fulfilling my hygiene standards. It's about, waking up, going to the gym, meditating, getting to my desk and cranking out, 4 or 5 hours of solid work in those summer periods. But a lot of times in the summers, unless I've got an agency sales call, unless I've got, just an important call that I need to take, a lot of times I will actually wrap up work around like 3 o'clock, 4 p.m., right? And that's because I understand my work seasons. And as I said, I think a lot of people don't understand this and they go against momentum. And basically what I've told to every single person is that all these high level entrepreneurs that have reached out and were like, hey, can you give me advice on this? Because like I'm so unmotivated right now. I feel as though like every single morning, like it's just a drag to get to work, et cetera, et cetera. I all gave them the same advice, which is sort of common theory would be that when you are riding up a hill, you exert, or for example, when you're running up a hill or riding up a hill, you exert more energy on your way up, right? Because you're working against momentum. So, you got to make up for that. And that's what a lot of people do. And then on the way down, for example, as I said, if you're riding a bicycle, you don't need to pedal because you've got the momentum going. Well, what people don't understand is that if you exert twice the amount of energy on the way up that hill, you may go from running or cycling, you may have like a 10 or 15% jump in your speed. Whereas if you actually pedal on the way down going with momentum, you won't have a 10 or 15% increase in speed. You might even double your speed, right? So the way that works, and kind of to bring it back into the sphere of entrepreneurship and just kind of work schedule, is a lot of people, they don't understand the different seasons of the year. And by the way, that's also does not mean that like the literal seasons, like summer does not have to be the time that you sort of take off and kind of enjoy yourself a little more. Another thing that I will say is if you are starting from scratch and you're not making, if you're not making $10,000 a month right now, you have no seasons. Like if you're still on your way to $10,000 a month, I don't care what your psyche is telling you. I don't care where your headspace is at. You work no matter what. Okay. Now I'm also not saying, work 7 days a week and never take any breaks. No, but you best be working at least 5 days a week. And look, I don't care. Is it where your headspace is at? I feel as though I'm in more of a down. No. You get to 10K a month, right? Because that's just like, I almost feel insensitive, when I say this stuff, but it's just like, it's not rocket science, right? It's not easy, but it's very, very simple. And it's just a matter of executing. So once you get to that stage, as I said, you gotta be able to load balance your energy a little better. And a lot of entrepreneurs really, really struggle with this. So whether your sort of off season is summer or winter, doesn't really matter. Point is, you need to know when to conserve your energy and really when to throttle. So a lot of people will go against momentum or go against inspiration. This is also, something else that a lot of people face is they'll go through a period of inspiration, right? Where they genuinely feel super inspired to get to work and, get to their desk and work on their business. And there are times where, they don't really feel that inspiration and they will go against that momentum. So as I said, just after, this will be coming up to my 5th year of having an agency, having a business. Like I know when to throttle and then when to kind of relax. I know when to go with momentum and know that momentum is really not on my side right now. And maybe it is time to start looking at other things. So as I said, the first 6 months of the year, I throttle. I do what I'm doing right now, which is 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I don't really care about anything else, right? And usually also what I find in that same period is in that first 6 months of the year is I party very little. I drink very little. My diet is like impeccable at a 10 out of 10. And just in general, I mean, like my sleep is also really, really good. And I'm very disciplined. And then, as I said, usually by the time it gets to June, July, August, all I care about is rosé and calamari. Like by the time that it gets to June, July, August, I just want to hang out with my friends and have some rosé, and just have some drinks, have some pims, enjoy summer. And by the way, as I said, the summer aspect, it has nothing to do with summer or winter, because right now I'm in Cape Town and it's summer, right? And it's sunny every single day. I guess it's, here in Cape Town, it's basically summer 9 months a year, or what I would consider summer. So as I said, it's not about the actual season of the year, because technically it's summer here. The weather is incredible, and yet I'm inside focused working, and I feel no desire to go outside and drink and celebrate with friends or this or that. It's just, as I said, there are these natural peaks and troughs. And even when it comes to inspiration or motivation, there are natural peaks and troughs. Now, I don't really believe in motivation per se. Discipline is the only thing that matters. But, and this is something you'll calibrate over the years. So if you're a year one entrepreneur, you probably won't understand this, and this probably isn't as applicable to you. But over the years, you start to understand, kind of the sort of person that you are. I also know that there's some people that like to split things up. For them, it's like, I want to do a 3.5 week sprint, and I want to enjoy 5 days. And they literally just do 12 iterations of that per year. There's some people that like to do the 3 months or, 2.5-ish months, and then take a 1 week, 2 week holiday. And they do 4 iterations of that a year. I'm not really that kind of guy. I don't know why, but just between January and June, my work ethic is sick. Like, it is sickening. Just my focus, my work ethic is on another level. By the time that it gets to, as I said, June, July, August, I honestly couldn't care less about my business. And that's, not to put it that black and white, but it's not a priority. It's probably not even in my top 3 priorities. And once again, you have to work to get to a place in your life where you know that you can take some attention off of your business, but it's still going to run and function. And that's also why I have my certain hygiene standards in place, so I know that no matter what, right, even in my down periods, I'm still getting 4 to 5 hours of deep focused work in per day. And even at 4 hours deep focused work, and throughout the week, a few sales calls for the agency, and maybe a couple miscellaneous calls that I have to take that are actually important here and there, the ship can kind of maintain for 3 months. Also understand that usually in those periods, I'm reaping the rewards of the first 6 months of the year. So those are, a lot of times, those are actually super profitable periods, even though technically I'm not actually putting much work in. And as I said, that doesn't mean that, for 3 months a year, I take a holiday. No, not at all. I might not even be abroad or taking a traditional holiday. It just means that, I know when to take my foot off the gas, and I know that when momentum is not on my side, right? And we all feel it, ladies and gents, we all feel when momentum is on our side. And the only thing that I can tell you is, and this will relate if you are a year one entrepreneur, or if you're doing below 10K a month, because maybe the other stuff I'm telling you is a little, is a little wishy-washy or a little nuanced for you right now, is if you have momentum on your side, if you've just signed a client recently, if you just had a big win recently, if you're in that zone where, things are working, your diet's on point, your sleep's on point, your work is on point, do not risk it. Do not jeopardize it. Under no circumstances should you jeopardize that. Because as I said, you've got, like in those video games, I don't know, I never really played video games that much growing up, but like those, I remember like racing ones, like you had like a super turbocharged thingy. That's kind of like what that is. It's like in those car racing games where you've got that turbo, but it only lasts a certain bit, right? So you've got your core performance, but it's like you've got this, this thing outside of you that just gives you extra energy and more of a push. And that's kind of like what momentum is. And you won't always have momentum on your side, but when you do not waste it, because you only have a limited supply of it. And as I said, you don't always necessarily know when it's going to come. And when it's not there, your discipline is the thing that carries you through those other periods. Okay. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rundown of where I am, kind of the way that I view my year, the way that I structure my year. As as I said, I'm at a point right now where I kind of know how far I can push it before I need to have a bit of, downtime and consolidation time. And that's, I'm in month 1 or now going into month 2 of usually what is a first 6 months of just go for it, right? And of the first 6 months where I got that turbocharger, that thing outside of me just that gives me that momentum and energy for whatever reason it is. And as I said, for you, your thing maybe, I know there's people that do 3.5 weeks and then they need a few days and they do 12 cycles of that. And I know, for you, it might be, hey, 11 weeks and then on the 12th week, I need to recharge and 4 cycles of that. For me, just so happens that it happens to be like a 6-month cycle. And then for 3 months, not to say that I'm on a holiday, but my mind is just in a different place. It's just more on socializing and, having fun and this and that. So kind of figure out over the years, take note of when you've got that momentum working for you, just that natural momentum working for you. And when in the year that you have more energy and more drive and a bit more inspiration, take heed of that and then make sure that you optimize your schedule around it. So that pretty much wraps it up for the first point. So moving on to the second point, and I know that this will be very juicy for a lot of you guys. I'm going to reveal a little bit more about my investment portfolio. So, kind of the issue that I had in 2018, 2019, 2020 was I was stacking up a lot of cash. And the first thing that I will say is there are some of you watching this that will look at my sort of my view on macroeconomics and think that I'm an idiot. And some they'll be like, oh my God, like, thank you. Finally, is someone speaking some sense. It's in the same way that someone can look at one, it's all about perspective in your lens, right? And that is pertaining to, diets. Like some people will look at my diet and think I'm an idiot. And some people will look at other people's diets and think they're, and some people will look at the way that I invested and will think that I'm an idiot. And some people will look at other things and think that they're an idiot. You know what I mean? So just like, all I will say is if you have a different lens, that's totally cool. Like you've probably done dozens and hundreds of hours of research on your own and come to your own conclusion from your sources. And, I've done the same. So from where I'm sitting and my macro perspective, I've said this before. I think stocks are, I don't like, there's certain areas where like, I think, there's certain things with people where I can have sort of like an educated debate about. And then there's some which I'm really bad. I need to work on this. I almost can't bite my tongue because like, for me, it's pure lunacy to believe in certain things. Like for me, I'm just like, can you not look? Because I always look at fundamentals. I don't look at media, public opinion, the actual number of something. I look at the fundamentals behind the number, right? So for example, the stock market, you got like all these American finance YouTubers and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, my stock portfolio. And like, once again, like they have a totally different lens in which they view macroeconomics than I do. And, they'd look at me and they'd be like, you're an idiot. And I do look at them and I'm like, you are an idiot. So I guess, it's whatever. It's, it's one of those. Stocks right now are, in my opinion, artificially inflated. Well, actually, that's not really an opinion. Like it's so obvious. What is happening? The reason that stocks are the price that they're at. What happened in 2020 was there was a K-shaped recovery, right? So, a few select stocks and companies, or a portion of the market went up and did better, and everything else just fell down. And that also applies to Main Street and Wall Street, right? So your average mom and pop shop, a lot of them got destroyed. Now, one thing I will say about a lot of local businesses is actually I found that a lot of local businesses that had good fundamentals before, they actually got better because they had the cash reserves to ride out the storm. And then when things reopened, then pretty much all of their competitors were wiped out that didn't have those solid cash reserves and weren't running their business in the right way and were over leveraged or just were basically working off janky foundations. So anyways, long story short, all of this stimulus, all of that money, first of all, Well, first of all, a lot of that money didn't even really go to the people that was intended to go to. A lot of it ended up flowing back into these stock companies. Now, when they inject all this stimulus, basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase the velocity of money, right? You receive money, you spend it at your local shop. That local shop then gives it, pays that out in salary, and then that local business pays out in salary. Then that person, spends the money, and you inject some stimulus into the economy. Really, what happened with a lot of that money? Well, first of all, most of it was theft, and yeah, I don't know. It's just, this is one of the worst times in history to be a taxpayer because it's criminal. It is honest. It is literally criminal what they're doing. But anyways, I digress. What happened is a lot of money ended up flowing into these stocks. That's also why you're seeing a lot of assets, hike up in price. That's why you're seeing houses in the Hamptons, shoot up. That's why you're seeing property in the UK. UK property prices are the highest they've ever been, where I live in London. And it's ridiculous. I think if you are buying property right now, you do not understand the fundamentals of economics, really. So from where I'm sitting, I'm looking at stocks and I'm going, okay, these are artificially inflated stock prices based on stimulus, which was printed from fake fiat currency by the Federal Reserve or Bank of England, which has nothing to do with the government. These are private institutions. So once you start to make that correlation, you're like, holy crap. Then you start to look at money and you're like, your entire world. I mean, really the only place that you need to start to realize that the entire economic system is, first of all, corrupt, and second, it's all I'm stumbling for my words here. It's all fake. It's all fake fiat currency, and it's all built on a deck of lies and deceit. Really, it's just, as I said, look at the Fed and look at the Bank of England, and in all the other countries they have their own versions of this. These aren't government bodies; these are private institutions, and this is why people will tell me, I'll talk about certain things going on in the world, and they're like, do you really think that do you really think that governments, blah, blah, this, and governments have the power? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Governments don't rule the world. First of all, money is the thing that dictates pretty much everything that goes on in the world. Money is not everything in the world, but money, I will be honest, controls the world. And all you have to do is follow the money and look who is the government in debt to? Who is the puppet master of the government's flow of money? These are private institutions. And then you only have to look at who owns these private institutions. Well, you can't, because these are private institutions. They don't need to disclose that. So anyways, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I'm looking at stocks and I'm going, I'm looking at them and I'm going, there's honestly, the prices are inflated. Everyone is just pouring all of this fake money into the markets, and that's why they're priced the way they are. Then I'm looking at things like real estate, for example, things in the UK, once again, being artificially inflated. You look at things like a stamp duty, which is basically in the UK, you have to pay tax when you buy a house, like a certain stamp duty on the price of the property that you buy. And what they did was they did stamp duty relief to try to, stimulate growth and try to incentivize people to buy property. Well, stamp duty doesn't work. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. That basically what happens is when they remove stamp duty, then all of the owners of the house know that, okay, people had budgeted this much, okay, and they'd budgeted in to pay stamp duty tax. Well, now their budget is still the same. They're still going to spend the same amount of money, right? So what they do is they just all increase the price of their house. And this is what's been happening in the UK, the States, all over the place, right? Is all of these property prices are creeping up in prime location or prime cities, when really, if you look at the fundamentals behind our economy right now, this is almost, if not worse, if you look at certain KPIs, than the 1930s and the Great Depression. And they'll manipulate numbers again and again and again. For example, the US, I think, what did they say? They said that their GDP went up by 3.3% in 2020, which is the biggest manipulation. I mean, it's one of hundreds and thousands of examples in 2020 of insidious manipulation of statistics and numbers. But how does a country's GDP go up by 3.3% during what was quite clearly one of the hardest hitting financial years in modern history? So, as I said, I'm looking at stock prices, I'm looking at real estate prices, and I'm looking at them through the lens that, okay, these are overpriced. These are overpriced assets that are being artificially propped up. So those two are out the equation. And apart from that, you've got other opportunities. Obviously, bonds, which you have to be an idiot to buy bonds right now because they're going to pay you nothing. What, you're going to put your money in your bank and get a 0.2% or 0.3 or whatever they're giving you right now interest on your money? No. So really that leaves a couple asset classes. Well, first of all, you can look at emerging markets, which is something that I'm starting to look at because I genuinely do believe the Western countries are cannibalizing themselves and driving themselves into the ground. And that is not a good place to have your money, both if you're investing in stocks, if you're investing in property. I don't think Western countries are a good place to put your money right now, or will be for the next 5 to 10 years / foreseeable future. So you can look at emerging markets. You can look at things like silver, gold. You can look at cryptocurrencies. You can look at sort of alternative investments. Now, emerging markets, something that I'm doing a lot of research on, and is something that's very interesting to me. If I'm looking at silver, gold, now these are more defensive plays and just aren't really interesting to me. I do want to buy some gold. I do want to buy some silver. Actually, I wish I'd bought some silver. And I do believe that silver over the space of the next few years will double, potentially even triple. First of all, a lot of the initiatives that they're taking in terms of the green energy protocols and stuff like that, you're going to need a lot of silver for it. And as I said, I think in terms of gold's really not budging that much. In terms of gold, I think that, gold compared to silver, I think there's a lot more upside potential in silver. So I want to put a lot of money into silver, but once again, that's as a defensive play. The other thing that you guys need to remember is I'm a business owner and I'm confident that for the rest of my life, I will always make at least 7, if not multi-7 figures a year, right? So for me, I'm not the 50-year-old or 60-year-old who's coming to the end of their career and needs to be defensive. I know that even if I lost my entire investment portfolio, who cares, right? I live well below my means. I have very profitable businesses and, I'll be fine no matter what. So as I said, looking at all these asset classes, emerging markets, something that I want to get into. Silver, gold, I want to buy potentially a little bit of gold, more interested in silver. Cryptocurrency. Well, we'll get into that in just a second. And then the other thing is alternative investments. Vintage cars, fine wines, watches, etc., etc. Now, I don't really know anything about cars. I don't know anything about wines, but watches I know a hell of a lot about. So that is actually one of my asset classes. Now, before sort of mid 2020, I didn't look at my watches as investments. Well, I guess I knew that they were, I had made a lot of money from them, even buying at market price and selling, buying market price, selling market price. I'm not even talking about the pieces that I get at retail and direct from the brands because, 90% of those pieces I would never sell just because it's like, I view myself as the 50-year-old with, a 400 watch collection. There's a really cool video. I think GQ did of this Italian businessman. Like, I totally view myself like that. You guys know I'm super into horology. I love all that stuff and I'm a avid collector. So, for me, I don't really see a point in selling a watch I get at retail, knowing that in 5 years, I would just want to buy it back anyways. So, I'm talking outside of that. Now, at the time of recording this, and all of my watches as well are in my personal name. Before, I was thinking about doing it through a different structure and this and that, and doing it through the business as an asset. Long story short, ended up doing it all through my personal name. So in my personal name, and I'll, converting from pounds to dollars, I have around $750,000 around $750,000 to $800,000 worth of watches. 50% of them are actually in my safety deposit box. As I said, the pieces that I get at retail, the pieces that I get at market value, I'm willing to shift around. I'm willing to move around. You guys saw, one watch that I got, the 5711R. I picked that up literally strategically on the 1st of September because I thought the price was way below where it should be for 76,500. And I knew that was quickly going to swing up. And then I sold it a lot cheaper than I wanted to. Ended up selling it for 82,500, but whatever, that's still $6,000 profit 4 weeks later. Now the price has actually shot up to 94,000. So yeah, whatever. Yeah, you win some, you lose some. I can't complain. I got to enjoy a rose gold Nautilus for 4 weeks. And yeah, I got to enjoy a rose gold Nautilus for 4 weeks and make $6,000 from it. Funnily enough, some of you guys who follow me on Instagram will know that I actually got a rose gold Nautilus at retail. So I actually got delivery of my 5711R that's waiting for me when I get back to London. So in terms of all of the potential investments I have in front of me, I've got my watches as kind of a defensive play. Now, I will say if I was to sell all the pieces, and I'm not including retail pieces, basically, if you guys have, if any of you guys have a watch collection, definitely recommend you use something called Chrono 24. Now, I've got my Chrono 24, but I don't list watches on there that I would sell. So, for example, my 5711R that I got at retail, that watch is like one of, if not my grail watch, even though I've already owned it. Like, yeah, for me, if I have to have one watch for the rest of my life, it's either that or a white face Panda Daytona. Well, actually, it would be a Paul Newman Daytona, but whatever. You get my point. So for me, I don't put that on that list. So, that, for example, Daytona, which I'm about to get a Panda very soon. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that I've already gone a Daytona before, a black Daytona, but I ended up giving that to my mom. So, basically the pieces that I would never sell, those don't get listed on my Chrono 24. The pieces that I would sell, so for example, the pieces that I got at market price, for example, recently I got as well, I knew it was undervalued. I got a rose gold, a Tourbillon Royal Oak. That watch I got for 83,500 pounds. And by the way, when I say these, I'm talking pounds. And that was a motivated seller. And once again, the cheapest you can find on Chrono 24 now is around 100K. And that's in the space of 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So I have all of my watches listed out that I would sell. And, there are also pieces that I have gotten at retail that I would sell, quite frankly. Like there's a rose gold, and this kind of gets onto my next point. Actually, most of my watches I don't actually tell you guys about. There is a rose gold root beer that I just got. I bought that watch and I know that I'm going to wear it for 4 or 5 months, enjoy it, and then, probably get rid of it. So, a watch like that, even though I did get it retail, for me, the ones I get at retail that I would never sell, as I said, are usually the, pieces, they're the grail pieces. They're the Daytonas, the Nautiluses, the Pepsis, the Hulks, the pieces where, you're going to have them forever. Also, a lot of, most of the steel pieces, I paid $7-8 for these, my life's not really going to be changed if I sell it. Whereas, some of the rose gold pieces or platinum pieces, those fetch, higher premiums. As I said, things like the Royal Oak Tourbillon, or let's say one that I actually got at retail, as I said, like the root beer, the rose gold root beer, 35K, 35,000 pounds, like that I can pump into other investments. So that is kind of my safe defensive investment, is my watch collection, right? Something that I can enjoy, wear, and kind of what I was alluding to with the Chrono 24 is if I was to sell all those pieces, I would make around 40%, right? So 40% gain in the last year is pretty decent, from a hobby where I get to buy luxury watches, I get to wear them, I get to, as I kind of throw into the vault or mentally throw into the vault to keep forever the retail pieces or sort of the grail pieces that I know that I'll want for the rest of my life. I get to play around with a bunch of pieces that I get at retail in some cases, although a lot less common. And for example, the pieces that I get at market value, I get to play around with them, have fun, and once I'm done with them, make some good profit. So that's kind of my defensive play. Now, my offensive play, which is probably what you guys will want to know about, is cryptocurrency. Now, this is something I've kind of refrained from talking about for a while. Now, I first got started in cryptocurrency in early November. And this is, obviously, you always have regrets. I wish I'd gone into it 2 months earlier. 2 months earlier was when I made the decision, I'm going for it. I got my Trezor. I verified all my accounts with all the different exchanges. I set up my DeFi accounts and this and that, and got all set up. And then basically just did nothing with it for 2 months. Actually, the main thing or the main issue was right now it is almost impossible with your traditional sort of high street banks to create a new bank account. Now my, business bank account that I bank with, I don't really use it much. I don't use my bank for anything except just for money to go into and money to go out of. I don't use any of the financial services that comes with banks. I use my Amex for everything. So in terms of Barclays, I was trying to create, for the last 6 months, I've been trying to create a business account. You can't. I spoke to my accountants that are very, very well connected. They reached out to the branch managers of Barclays, HSBC, Santander. You cannot create a bank right now with high street banks. It's ridiculous. So then you start looking at things like Revolut, Monzo, this, that. What's the other one? There's another one. I forget. Anyways, issue is one, I remember Sterling got verified, no issues. Also, it's because it's an investment company. The separate investment company that I created earlier in 2020, which has been sitting there doing nothing. So I've got something like that. So Sterling accepts they accept investment companies, but they don't allow cryptocurrencies. Then you've got something like Monzo, accepts cryptocurrencies, but doesn't allow investment companies, right? So then basically between all of these different sort of online banks, I cannot find one that would let me be an investment company, right? My separate investment company that I created, but that would also let me invest in cryptocurrencies. So that was basically the reason that why for 2 months I just was sitting on the sidelines wanting to invest in cryptocurrency, but I couldn't. And obviously I did not want to take the money out in my personal name because then you get hit with a big dividend tax. Well, eventually I realized, look, the way that things are going over the next few years, dividend tax is not going to go up. Dividend tax is definitely not going to go down. So the way I thought about it, I'm like, well, look, if dividend tax is only going to go up, why don't I just actually take out a ton of cash and just make it my objective this year is to take out as much cash out of my company at a lower tax rate? And, I spoke with some tax advisors and my accountant and this and that, and they were like, your logic makes a lot of sense. It could be a very risky move if it doesn't work out and dividend taxes stay the same or go down. Well, I mean, look, they're not going to go down. Personal income tax. Well, actually, all taxes are not going to go down. They're only going to go up. But they were like, look, it's a risky move, but you totally understand the logic. So basically, what I did in November was I just took out a lot of money. I won't say how much, but a lot of money. So now my position in cryptocurrencies are 7 figures. Well, actually, farther. 7 figures, pushing almost on multiple. No, actually, yeah, basically multiple 7 figures. And as I said, that is obviously when I took out all that money, I had to put aside money. Well, actually, I already had a lot of money in my personal name just from a few years back when I was still operating as a sole trader. Basically, I saved every single penny I had during my sort of first year. But anyways, long story short, put aside the tax money, invested the cryptocurrency money, et cetera, et cetera. So now the 2 things I'm invested in, and I know you're really not meant to tell people when it comes to cryptocurrency. I think the main reason that is because people obviously don't want to pay. A lot of people don't want to pay tax on their cryptocurrency. But apart from security perspective, like my cryptocurrency is super secure, so I'm not worried about security issues. I think for some people, it's like, oh, it makes you a target. Whatever. Like I'm already a target, I guess you could say. And as I said, in 2020, I had to implement some security stuff in my life that I never would have thought I would have had to. But I guess you could say I'm well protected, well looked after. So anyways, cryptocurrency portfolio is now 7 figures, almost multi 7 figures. In terms of my personal portfolio, and then outside of that, I'm invested in watches. Someone would look at that and be like, that is absurd, that is ludicrous. You don't have any bonds, you don't have any stocks, you don't have any gold, silver, whatever. Like I think personally, where I view watches, I think watches are only going to go up. Reason that is because they're things you can move around very easily from country to country, right? Because there's a mass exodus happening. There's a lot of people leaving Western countries and moving around the world. If you want a perfect example of that, look no further. By the end of the year, I say it's a goal. It's not a goal. It will happen. I will be out of the UK. So that's actually one of the other reasons that I was fine with taking all that money out of my company was whatever. I'm going to pay this one final massive, 7 figure, well into 7 figure, HMRC tax bill. It's going to be painful, But whatever, after that, I'm done. Right. And I'm currently working on, with a bunch of lawyers. I'm moving country. There's a couple different options. I'll still be a UK, I'll still have my UK passport. But yeah, I'm moving to a different country. And I refuse to pay anything more than 10% tax. When you look into where the money is going, there's not a single country on earth that needs more than 15% tax from its citizens, because the rest are being spent on wars they start themselves, being spent on, in a lot of cases, fraud and money laundering, quite frankly. And a lot of times government money just goes missing, right? Just goes missing. They can't account for it. So yeah, anything above 15% tax is pure extortion. And yeah, if you asked me a year ago, I was a very proud British taxpayer. And yeah, now I'm not. Like, my mom worked for the NHS. We directly, she worked minimum wage for the NHS, but whatever. Like I always was very fond of the NHS, and I would always get really angry. And, maybe that was also the fact that, my mom managed to move us to the UK when I was 4 years old, and coming from Russia to London, it was like, man, it's, a child's dream comes true. And, I've always had a lot of love and admiration for the UK. Not anymore. All of it is gone. 2020 and 2020, all of it. Any ounce of respect I have for the country, gone. Same thing with the US, but I will say I've never respected the US, which I feel I know a lot of people are patriotic, but like I feel as though even people from the US are like, okay, yeah, like fair enough, yeah, I get why you'd say that. But yeah, also keep in mind, I don't consider myself Russian. I don't consider myself British, even though both my parents or my mom and my biological father are are Russian. Don't consider myself Russian. Don't consider myself British. So yeah, I don't really associate or consider myself any from any country in the world, I guess you could say. So that's kind of where my portfolio is at. As I said, I know that a lot of people technically won't talk about their portfolio side, which is when it comes to cryptocurrencies. I'm not here to evade tax. I'm not really interested in putting all my cryptocurrency into Monero and then just living in a bunker my entire life, or having all my cryptocurrency and never being able to cash any of it out because I'm afraid about the government finding out and me having to pay taxes or this that. No, this year I'm gonna have my tax bills anyways per year are usually not too pretty, but most of the time that's just on the company side of things. As I said, I try to take as little money out the company as humanly possible on my side of things. But this year my personal tax bill is going to be excruciating. I'm going to deal with it, and then I'm going to live happily ever after, knowing that never in my life again will I ever pay above 10% tax. I refuse to. As I said, from a principles perspective, it's extortion. I don't know if any of you guys learned this lesson in 2020 or in 2021. And, I don't know. There's a lot of things and a lot of very controversial things that I probably shouldn't talk about. Or at least maybe it would be a topic for another video. But from an early age, I've never thought the government is there to help you. But if 2020 and 2021 taught you one thing, please let it be your government is not there to help you. They are not your friend. They are not your friend. They're not there to serve you. And they don't have your best interest in mind. And all that tax money you give them, it gets pissed away on the most disgusting. Yeah, it gets me a little heated talking about it. But anyways, ladies and gents, that is a little bit about my investment portfolio revealed. Before 2020, I was basically all cash. By the end of 2020, I had in terms of my personal name, a multi-seven, between my watches, my cryptocurrency portfolio, a multi-7-figure investment portfolio. So that's kind of where things are at. My goal by the end of the year is, in terms of dollars, have my investment portfolio get to probably around $5 million in my personal name. And then by the time I'm 25, I want to get it to 25 million. So 25 million in assets minus any debt. And by the way, I am so excited to buy real estate. And okay, I got 4 minutes to buy real estate and stocks, just when they're priced based on value, not artificially inflated. My goal growing up was always, and kind of for me, ultimate success is when you own tons and tons of properties. It's just, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the sucker that buys at the height of the market. And I believe we're at the height of the market. And all the fundamentals tell you that we're at the height of the market. And as I said, it doesn't take a genius to look at it and go, these are artificially inflated prices. So that's that. Now, the last thing to end off this with is, because we always talk about watches for the most part. Yeah, ladies and gents, there's probably 6 watches I own that I don't, or maybe 6 or 7 watches that are still in my safety deposit box, still have the stickers on them, have never left the box. And yeah, a lot of times I'll buy watches as investments, throw them into the vault, thinking either I'll, give them to my son in the future or my daughter or whatever. And sometimes they just stay in there, and, I wait for the right moment to take them out and start wearing them and enjoying them. So a lot of you guys may be looking at this watch and going, Iman brought his Hulk, the Hulk that I had last year with me. Iman brought his Hulk to South Africa again. Well, that's where you'd be mistaken. This is actually the Kermit. So this is the new 2020 Kermit. Yeah, it's, I thought it was very symbolic. So basically, this is literally the last day before I'm about to go to Cape Town. I was approved a while back. When I say a while back, I buy so many pieces from Rolex, probably 2-3 watches a month. They're like, probably two pieces a month on, or actually, 2-3 pieces a month on average from them. But anyways, I got approved for a white Panda. They just didn't have any. They had some stock, but these are, kind of my point of reference at Rolex. I won't tell you where, or who, or this or that. But the people that I deal with, they get basically the biggest stock in Europe, and they have some very big clients, and there's always some stock that needs to be reserved for certain people. So they had a couple there, but they were already reserved. So I couldn't get my white Panda. I wanted to have my white Daytona for South Africa, so couldn't get that. So they were like, "Hey, look, we know you'll be back in 2 months. So while you're waiting, we can give you we can give you a Hulk. We can give you a Hulk or a Batman, or sorry, a Kermit or a Batman, or a Batgirl technically. Anyways, I ended up taking this Kermit. I thought it was very symbolic that I had my Hulk with me last year. And yeah, it's a new year. Obviously, they came out with a new watch, very similar but slightly different. Basically what 2020 and 2021 will be. And yeah, ended up taking the Kermit. I love it. I love this watch so much. I think I might even like it more than the Hulk. I prefer the sort of the shape of it. I wasn't as big a fan of the maxi case with the Hulk. And yeah, what can I say? It's a great watch. As I said, yeah, ladies and gents, in terms of actual volume, I've probably spent, by now with Rolex, I've probably spent almost close to $1 million in terms of actual volume I've done. Yeah, I have a lot of watches. It is that I've got a lot of watches in the vault, basically still setting. I think at the time of or the time that this will go out, I think I know the day before you may have seen that I basically got, I basically did the unboxing video with my Platinum Daytona, a watch that I was very, very excited to get. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed that. Hope you guys all enjoyed this January roundup. I can tell I'm feeling super, like I'm super rusty. Like I felt as I babbled on and, talked over my words quite a few times. I wonder if like Joe Rogan, when he takes, time off, because, I do these once a month where I have to do sort of a long form piece of content. I wonder if Joe Rogan takes a month off, whether he feels like rusty or whether, someone like that can just get straight back into it. So yeah, with no further ado, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoyed me revealing some very intimate stuff that, or, in terms of my finances, which I've never revealed before. And yeah, on that note, I'll see you guys in the next roundup.